Welcome to Susan's Cooking School. Today we're making broccoli cheddar fougasse. We'll begin with the sponge for our dough. I've heated my water. I like to use spring water. It's good to have it between about 100 and 110 and add it to the flour. And I'm going to sprinkle my yeast on top. I'm going to be making a sponge today, so I get to mix all the ingredients together. I don't have to wait for the yeast to soften up because the sponge will have a high enough moisture content to dissolve the yeast. It can take a bit of stirring to get smooth. As you can see, it's rather liquidy. This will actually help our yeast to get a good head start. Okay, that looks pretty smooth. And then we're going to cover this and let it sit for 30 minutes. If your kitchen is cold, you can set this in a warm place. You can put this in a pan of hot water. I think it's pretty warm and I think it'll be okay, so I'm just going to leave it at room temperature. See you in a bit. On to the filling. While our sponge is rising, we'll cook our onions for the filling. You want to cook these really well so they sweeten up and they lose a lot of their moisture. Our onions are ready. We'll put these aside until we're ready to fill our fougasse. Grating some cheddar cheese. We'll cook our broccoli in a little salted water, just for a few minutes. Now I'll drain these and put them in a nice water bath. Broccoli is now drained and ready to go. It's been 30 minutes. Let's check our sponge. You can see it might be hard for you to see, but it's gotten a little foamy and the texture is much different than it was before. You can see the gluten starting to activate. And I don't know how to describe it exactly except to say that it just feels kind of gloopy, if that's the right word. We'll add the rest of our flour, which is 10 ounces, about 2 cups. It's about 3.5 cups of flour altogether, but I definitely recommend weighing your flour. So I add my 2 teaspoons of kosher salt, 2 teaspoons of extra virgin olive oil, and mix this up. Just going to stir to incorporate the ingredients. Once I get the ingredients incorporated, I'll be able to tell if I need to add a little bit more flour or a little bit more water to this. This is a rather soft dough, so it's going to be kind of sticky. It gives us a nice moist interior on a finished product. Almost a little like a ciabatta inside, but not quite as moist as that. Now I'm just going to knead this a little bit on the counter. Put a little flour down. Empty my dough. As I said, it is sticky, so you're going to cover this with dough in the beginning so it be a little bit less sticky on your hands. Another thing you can do when you're kneading a sticky dough that already has a little olive oil in there, or any kind of oil, I'm going to take this little bit of olive oil that was left in my container and put it on my fingers. That'll help it not stick to my hands as much also. So this is coming together very nicely. Just knead this for 2 to 3 minutes, using the heel of my hand, going back and forth on the counter. Sometimes if the dough gets a little out of hand, you can fold over the edges and then keep kneading. That helps keep it together. Another thing you can do is use a bench scraper. Just pick it up when you need to. You can put a little extra flour on your hands. Alright, this is ready to go. Just going to fold this edges over and round this piece of dough. Like that. I'm just going to place it back in the same bowl we used earlier. Cover it and let it rise until it's about double in size. I'll see you later. If your kitchen is cool or you're in a little bit of a hurry, you can set your pan in a bowl of warm water. Not hot, but just warm. And that'll really help your dough to rise up fast.
15, let's pick it up. 16, 17, 18, 19.
I think our dough is ready. Let's take a look. You can see the dough is risen underneath. You can see the little bubbles that have formed. Empty this out. Now, I'll put a little bit of flour on the top too, just to prevent it from sticking to my cutter. We're going to divide this into approximately 6 pieces. I'm just going to take each piece and fold it into thirds. So I just stretch it out a little bit, fold one half over and the other half over, just to give it a little shape. And I don't want to get it too tight because I want to stretch this dough after, so I just want to give it a little shape without making the dough too tight. Do the same thing again, fold into thirds. I can set these on a little flour on the side here. And do this with the remaining pieces. I'm just going to let these sit on the counter for about 10 minutes. Alright, these are ready to fill. Take the plastic off. Just going to sprinkle these with a little flour. We'll do one at a time. Don't worry that they're sticky. We want the dough to be a little on the sticky side. Okay, so I'm going to put this down on the flour and I'm just going to press this out. Make sure it's not sticking. There's no need to measure or anything. I'm just going to press it out to, oh, I don't know, maybe 1/2 inch or less thickness. Alright, now in the middle, I'm going to put some of my onions. A little bit of crumbled bacon is great too. I also have a little rosemary. I'm going to put in here some fresh rosemary. And my broccoli that I cooked previously. And this broccoli is just cooked for about 3 minutes. Steamed for about 3 minutes. I'm just going to put 3 pieces in there. And I'll move this one this way. And I'm going to top this with some sharp cheddar. Alright, and then I'm going to fold it over like an envelope. I'm going to give it a little stretch, flatten it out a little bit. And then I'm going to put 3 slashes in the top. I want these slashes to go all the way to the filling. So I'm going to make sure that I cut deep enough. And that's it. I'm going to put this on my tray that I have lined with parchment paper. And I'll just do the rest of these the same way. And another thing I'm going to do that makes it look kind of pretty is I'm going to sprinkle a little cheese on the top. And do a little flour on the top also. Now I'm going to proof these, which means they're rising right before they go into the oven, in my homemade proof box, and I'll show you what that is. If you don't have something like that, you can just proof these at room temperature or find a warm spot to put them in. These pans have lids, which is kind of nice, so I'm going to put the lid on this. If you're using a little proof box like this, you don't have to have the cover over these because there's enough steam in here that will keep these from drying out. And then just put the cover on, and we'll check back in a little bit. I'm going to make sure this pan that has the water in it is exposed a little bit so that the steam can come up. All right, our fougasse are ready to go in the oven. My oven's been preheated to 400 degrees. These have risen up. You can see the indentation stays when I put my finger in there. And I can tell they're just lighter and fluffier than they were before. So I'm going to put these in the oven for about 20 minutes. There they are in the oven. It's been 20 minutes. Let's take a look. They're just about done. Just going to turn them around to get them a little more evenly baked. And I'll take them out in just a couple minutes. Alright, they were in for 2 more minutes. And they look perfect. These are ready to eat. Or you can cool them down and put them in the refrigerator or the freezer and have them when you're ready to eat them. They look good. Time for lunch. There's the first taste.
Very hot, but very good.
Hope you've enjoyed this video. Happy baking! Here's how I make my homemade proof box. I pour some boiling hot water into a shallow pan on top of a rack in a bin with a plastic lid. may need to add some extra hot water, as I did, because it tends to cool down.